Welcome to Fractal Focus, the podcast where innovation meets entrepreneurship. And welcome to this very, very special episode of Fractal Focus. If you've listened to this podcast through all of its episodes, you've known this episode has been coming. Dropped hints about it. I've mentioned this guy's name on many different occasions. And now finally, it feels like when the Avengers came out, remember that? That big movie, that big moment. You see all the superheroes come together. For us in Fractal and for all the people that work within it, talking to this guest today feels exactly like that. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Justin Fortier, managing partner of Fractal Group. Justin, dude, welcome.
I think of myself more as Professor X from so no man, thank you. Been a fan of the show. As kind of one of the early founders of Fractal, it's awesome to finally find the time to be on the show, and thank you for making space. We've had some really amazing guests so far, so honored to be here.
Yeah, we're honored to have you. And without a doubt, I think this conversation culminates so many conversations you and I have had throughout the years of working together. So I need to really add that context for our audience. Justin and I have been working together for quite a while. And so a lot of the conversations that we do have will color what this becomes. But what we want to do to frame everything we're going to talk about is start with your journey, because ultimately this podcast is where the tagline is entrepreneurship intersects with innovation. So your journey and how you have become such an amazing entrepreneur who has truly innovated the way that you think about collectivism within companies and really working together. I just want to hear about where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, so the entrepreneurial journey starts for most people is sort of in their innate nature. From early days of kind of hustling on the playground type of thing, thinking always in terms of being able to blaze your own path. You really won't succeed as an entrepreneur unless that's kind of in you and is just innate and natural. So just for what it's worth on that side, it's just kind of always been how I've been. Kind of always had that desire to do things, to go out on my own, to be the master of my own destiny, to build teams, to be a leader. That's always just been something I've wanted to do. The real journey began in probably 2010. I threw a music festival, actually. I was running a club down in San Diego, and I decided to go out and spend every dollar I had throwing a music festival. And as many entrepreneurs do, they bite off more than they can chew. And I did. Decided to get 20 bands instead of 5. First festival, I can handle 20. Did it in a small parking lot. Didn't think about where the speakers were facing. Got a phone call from the apartment building across the street. Could barely hear the person talking. Things were falling off their walls because we had these giant speakers pointed at this apartment building maybe 200 yards away. They were just getting blasted by our sound. And I remember turning and going, no one answered the phones. So the cool thing about that was biting off more than you can chew teaches you a lot about yourself and how hard are you willing to push yourself to ensure that one, you still have integrity with the people who you ask to trust you along the way. You told a lot of people that you could pull something off, and you decide whether or not you care about your integrity enough to work your ass off to make that happen. You find out what you're made of, and you also gain a wisdom and an intuition that you cannot get out of a book. You cannot pay someone to give that to you. You only do that when your neck is on the line and you get an intuition for what it feels like when things are going sideways or things are successful. At the end of this, the festival, I got more pats on the back saying that was amazing. That was the best party I've been to. Everybody said, you must be so happy right now. but I knew I wasn't disciplined in my spending. I didn't quite sell as many. I wasn't good at going to market as I thought I was. Didn't sell as many tickets as I thought. And a small group of people got a very good show. And everybody thought that was like just so great, so great. And I remember sitting under the bar at the end of the night at El Dorado Cocktail Lounge down in San Diego. And the owner of the bar came and pat me on the back and said, "This feeling right here, it's worth whatever you just lost, because you're going to remember this the rest of your life, and you cannot pay for this," kind of like paraphrasing a bit. But I remember Nate telling me that, and that was one of the most powerful moments as an entrepreneur. Was like, okay, now I know what it feels like. Now I know what I'm made of. Now I know how hard I can push myself, where my limits are. I'll grow those limits, but I know where my current limits are. And then I know when I promise something, I know what I can deliver. So that journey began with failure, but with success, many successes as well. Failure in terms of my P&L. At the time, it wasn't that much money. In hindsight, it wasn't that much money. At the time, it was everything I had. That then starting FYC Labs, which was okay. I can do this. I lost that money, but I made it back and I survived, and I'm okay. I'm not living in a car. The stress passed. I figured it out and trusted that I could actually take a bigger leap. So then we started FYC Labs with Pablo Stanley, who at the time was a graphic designer for the parties that we were throwing, and said, "Hey, maybe we go create a creative agency together and go build some fun things." So it's where the journey began, but it's always been in you for any entrepreneur. It's always been in you to try. It's really how much it's in you when you do that first leap, and how hard you push yourself to see how far you can go.
What's really great about your perspective, and forgive my assumption always about other tech leaders in the space and stuff like that, but and maybe I'm showing a little bit of bias because of the time we've spent together working on projects, but I think a lot of what you just said translates into the character that you bring to the space as an entrepreneur that's unique in tech, which is really the bootstrap story, which is really coming from a different place than typical well-funded VC, blue blood type of individuals that have never faced massive adversity until they face the adversity, but without the character build, if that makes sense. So you've always had that character build. What my curiosity is, how do you translate or how do you package this gut instinct mixed with this work ethic, mixed with this discipline in a way that translates to working with other entrepreneurs, especially in thinking about Fractal Group and how that's been developing? How do you package that lightning in a bottle and pass it along to someone else and say, "Hey, look at the things that I've done to get to this point now, where FYC Labs is not just this one little studio in San Diego with Pablo Stanley at design. Now you have a great deal of clients and a great deal of people that you're working with." How do you do that? What are the techniques that you use to say, "Hey, fellow leader in Fractal, this is how you get it done"?
Well, I haven't successfully every time. That's like the main thing is that I'm learning in the last year or so, is when you have that level of stick-to-itiveness and grit, you kind of assume others will too. And you forget that not everybody has built that character. So sometimes I think about, hey, why isn't this person just doing this? It's like, oh, why didn't that leader just solve the problem this way? It's like, well, the reason why that's so easy for you, Justin, or for other entrepreneurs who have been through the trenches or through warfare, or whatever the analogy you want to use, is that that's really easy for them. For those other folks, one, they might not even know that some of those solutions exist because they never had the opportunity to go through all the things that maybe you have. So I always think about that in terms of all the conferences I've had a chance to go to, just the way that the conversations I've had over the years with other entrepreneurs over beers and coffee and passing in the hallways and just kind of surrounding myself with that group of people. These other folks haven't necessarily had that experience. So it isn't something that it's actually hard to relate to at times, because you forget that they haven't had that. And you're like, okay, let me take a step back, put myself back in those shoes. And yeah, this all seems so foreign and intimidating at that time. So I made an assumption a bit on Fractal early days that it would just be a system and some advice, and we had success. System, advice, and some cash, and we'll have success. Pretty naive to think that now looking back, is because we needed to put these entrepreneurs through some hoops. And now I'm watching our group in Fractal be healthier, more disciplined, more honest with themselves. We have yet to lose a Fractal company, so that's pretty cool. They've all made it through year one. And I'm looking at the leaders differently now, seeing a more weathered mindset, who now know how to take on a challenge, can get through it, and find other ways to keep the company going without having to give up, or like you just said, the other route, which is sell out to the man and go get a VC or private equity come in and save your butt because you didn't believe in yourself enough. These people now are at a point where they believe in themselves enough that they're going to be successful in their businesses because they believe in them, not because they're going to get lucky by finding somebody else, or they're going to be able to raise money. They're going to be able to fit a certain demographic and get a grant or whatever it may be. They're like, no, I'm going to win because I can win. And that, they're not 100% there yet, but I'm watching them build that growth because they've gone through the hard parts. They've been honest with themselves about their shortcomings, and they work through it. And that is huge. That's a differentiator that will build businesses that retain their equity, that don't sell out, that have the integrity to do things right. And I admire now that group of people that we've kind of come together with, and kind of how they've stuck to it, even though many of them, it's been tough. They have had their potatoes and lentils moments where they, are trying to live off of a budget because they don't want to give up and go get a job. They don't want to leave, and they don't want to go take I think what most of them want is significance. They don't want to go take an insignificant job at an organization where they don't feel like they're contributing. That they're just another cog in the wheel. And whether they're the owner or like a C-suite executive, they want that contribution. So for what it's worth, it didn't go well year one. It didn't go perfectly year one. It was tough. There was some businesses that we thought would have more momentum that didn't. There was money that we thought was going to be in, and revenue numbers that we thought we were going to be at that we aren't. But what I did see go well, and sort of to your point of like passing on that grit, is the only thing you can do is just watch them go through it and be there and say, hey, I've been there too. And then you can kind of help them believe in themselves and say, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You got through this, and then kind of congratulate them when they do come out the other side.
That is vital when we think about the core tenet of just survival, that you have to have that grit. And what's interesting about the way that you've phrased and I don't want to get into the failure part of it, because yes, there were failures in that year one, but the success part of it, which is you survived, now you have the tools at your disposal to succeed. In segueing to that, how vital, not just the discipline side, not just the stick-to-itiveness, not just the intestinal fortitude, if I can keep elaborating words about it, right? What is it about systems and process that is also the important part of the cocktail to be successful, or to go towards being successful?
What I've learned in the last year is they don't mean shit unless the people who are leading them believe in them. So that is something that you can hand an entrepreneur the perfect operating system, the EOS or whatever it is you decide to follow, the scalable OS, whatever it is. If they don't believe in it and they don't themselves want to be disciplined and think that is the value, these systems and processes are useless. They don't mean anything. And I'm watching a lot of people get lazier and lazier with AI, and they're not looking for systems anymore. They're looking for shortcuts, and they're looking for cheat codes. The problem is the whole world has a cheat code. It's not a cheat code if you're, it's a cheat code if you're the only one who has it. If
That's
everybody
right.
else has a cheat code, it's just the game. So I'm watching a lot of entrepreneurs who thought that they could bail on systems, they could bail on being disciplined because AI will solve that problem for them. And in many ways it does, but their incremental growth is maybe let's call it 50% entrepreneurial rating improvements. The difference is somebody who already is systems and process oriented, and then you augment them with AI, they're 100, 200, 300xing themselves. And meanwhile, the person who doesn't have the discipline, who's added that 50x, now has an ego, like, oh, look what I can do. Look at how great I am. It's like, yeah, so did everybody else, bud. Like, it's everybody else got these same tools. They have access to the same tools. And you are still relatively far behind, if not even worse than you were before, because you still didn't buy into the discipline. You still haven't bought into process. You're just even being lazier with AI. AI's making up for some of that, but the rest of the world is too. So my thing is with that systems and process mindset and saying, can I repeat a thing? Can I create a long-lasting solution versus a Band-Aid? Is more of a mindset. I've learned last year, it's more important to have the mindset than it is to have the proper system, if that makes sense. It's not something I can just hand a book to. It's about changing the perspective and the values of the entrepreneur to value that process and that system, and then to augment them with a nice handbook and augment them with better code practices or some advice from others. But it's a mindset shift for sure.
I feel like a lot of times, and this is something I'm relating as I'm hearing what you're telling me, especially with the idea of AI not leveling the playing field, but certainly like everybody's playing the same game. I think about cream rising to the top always, no matter what the environment is, right? Cream rises to the top, meaning the people that do have the discipline, the talent, the ability to really stick to those systems and processes do rise to the top in any environment. And if we're talking about AI, if we're talking about COVID, if we're talking about recessions, if we're talking about depressions potential, like anything in that parameter, that cream will always rise to the top. When you're working with someone, what are the things that you key in on, or what are the things that you pay attention to or that you listen to? This could be entrepreneur, client, vendor, coworker, any of those people that you've worked with in your life. What are the key things you're looking for when you see someone potentially being that cream? Oh God, that sounded really weird. Anyway, being that person that can rise to the top above the typical NPC character almost, which I hate to use that. And that's an inside joke with me and you. But like, what is that differentiator between when you hear someone talking to you, when you working with someone through a problem, through a difficult situation, how do you identify the people that have those qualities as opposed to the people that don't? And that's a very uncomfortable question, but I'm curious as to how do you see it? Yeah.
It's an awesome question. One, I love hockey. So I look at like Macklin Celebrini, right? So of course he's on my favorite team too. But 19-year-old kid comes in, scores over 100 points, and the first time since Sidney Crosby did it. And he's just this stud. And then I start to kind of like, but when you watch him play, you just see it time in and time out. You can see that he's put in the work. You can see that he has a passion for the game. He puts all the BS behind him. He still has fun. Like, he's still got a funny little TikTok with his buddies. Like, this kid's 19. It's awesome. And he's still having fun. Like, yeah, he's on TikTok. He's on with his buddy Will Smith, and they're doing cool things. He's still a kid, is what's funny. But when he's on the ice, when he's doing business, when he's doing his business, right? He's you can just see all that hard work is coming through, because he's doing the things off the puck. He's doing the things that no one really looks for. And he's not doing it for attention. He's doing it to win. So with someone like that, you translate that into the business world, is you start to see someone who does the little things for the win, not for the attention. We had an interesting potential Fractal Group team member coming around recently who was mostly focused on the attention and the ego and saying, look at how great I am. My clients love me so much. All they want to do is work with me. This is so great. I just love that feeling of coming out of call. My clients are so happy with me. It's like, that is not rising to the top. That is someone who's going to be so fragile that if he does get bad client feedback, he's going to sink, because everything he does is for himself and for his own gloat and his own ego, versus a group of people who do things for the win. So what you're looking for when you're looking for that kind of person who you believe is going to be that top talent, that person who will follow the systems, who will contribute, who will push your team forward, is the one who does the little things in the background without asking for attention for it. You notice it from the quality and product of their work. Too many leaders don't look at the quality and product of the work of their team members. They ask for reports. They ask for this sycophantic ass-kissing session where someone comes in and tells them how great they are and how much things are going well, blah, blah, blah. I want the person who comes to me and says, we had a problem in this last project. It was tough. And we got through it, and here's how we got through it. And then when I go back and I check their task list or look at their code or look at their commits, they're doing all the little things to show that they put in the work, they put in the discipline, that they care about the one more set. If you're like a lifter, right? They always push themselves that one more time. And that's because they want to grow and they want to win. So those two things kind of go hand in hand. And those are the ones who meaningfully move your company forward. Those are the ones that you can really step away from a project and be like, okay, they got this. Again, going back to now, early days doing that with developers, designers, software engineers, marketers, even admins, kind of like that was one thing. Like, okay, cool. These people do this. And then you start to get that to an entrepreneurial group and you go, okay, who are the entrepreneurs who are rising to the top? Who are the entrepreneurs who are doing the little things? They're keeping track of their CRM as if they were just a everyday salesperson. Who are the ones who are checking back on their tabs? Who are the ones who are going back and looking at budgets? Who are the ones who are on top of their stuff every single day because they know it's the right thing to do, not because anyone's watching? The only person who cares is themselves at that point, because there's no boss above you to congratulate you. You're just doing it because you know it's the right thing to do. So what I've seen in the past for the folks who rise to the top are the ones who do all the things for the right reasons and never do it for the attention.
I feel like a lot of the failed entrepreneurs that we've seen, and even if we go to failed entrepreneurship on a massive scale, whether it's someone who very publicly crashed or all the little crashes that we don't see and are not celebrated on LinkedIn. I wish LinkedIn had a section where you can see everybody that failed, where you can see the failure point and exactly how it happened. Because I also feel a component of entrepreneurship for some people is ego, is the assumption, I can do this.
Yeah, you have to have that, right? Yeah.
You have to have that to a degree, right? Like there is a degree of that, but there is a point, right, where that ego can interfere, especially if you're not doing the small things. If you're not dotting the I's, you're not crossing the T's, you're not checking on a micro level about the health of your business, the health of this thing that you're growing. I'm curious, how many times in your life have you been tempted to just step back? I don't know if this is true or not, but I always want to ask this, to step back and go, you know what? I've done enough. I don't have to check a P&L every day. I don't have to check, I don't have to dot every I and cross every T on a contract. Have you ever gotten to a point where, and I'm asking, this is like an exhaustion level question, I think. Have you ever gotten to a point as an entrepreneur that's so detail oriented and then so deeply involved in the success of your businesses that you won't, like, are there been any moments where you're like, you know what? Nah, man, I'm Justin Fortier. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy this. Like, has there ever been a point where you almost got there?
Yes, I've tried it several times. Every time it turns out that, I think the analogy might be for those people who work out. It's kind of like saying, "Oh, I got to the weight and body composition that I'm happy with. I'm not going to work out anymore. I'm good."
Yeah.
That's not how it works, bud. Like you gotta maintain that. So there's moments where you do get that. I mean, everybody gets exhausted. Everybody has moments like that. I would say 2-ish years ago, I was at that point a little bit where the company was doing really well. Overhead was really low. And things were just kind of chilling. I'm like, hey, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time in the yard, working in the yard and picking oranges and raking leaves and doing that kind of thing. Inevitably, an opportunity knocks at the door. Inevitably, life throws you a curveball and you're ready to get you right back on the horse. So as someone who at times wants to, because you're tired and your social battery is wiped and your emotional battery is wiped and you've got 2 awesome daughters who you want to spend a little bit more time with, you find these moments of feeling resentful toward your business, of this is stealing from me. This is not fair to me. Why do I have to deal with all this shit every day? But ultimately, every time you feel bad, you feel sorry for yourself, or you start to run away. It's more of a runaway than a back off.
Yeah.
Every time that happens, it only makes things worse. And so, especially in the last year, 2 years, I've kind of said, this is what my life is going to be. Every day that I act like it's not going to be is just me being petty and me being able to, like, oh, man. And then you go and imagine as if you didn't have this, and then immediately my head goes back to, oh my God, I have to, like, no, I can't be that passive. That sounds awful, right? Like, that's just not who I am. I want to grow. I want to contribute. You know, if I even spend one day not contributing or doing something, I start to go like, I need to feel contribution to a group. So yes, it's super tempting to walk away. It's super tempting to sell the business. I mean, we've had some offers in the last couple of years that they were really amazing outsized offers that we couldn't say no to. But each one of those was depressing in its own right, because I love this. I love our businesses. I love running Fractal. I love doing what we're doing. But it's one of those things where you really can't see yourself doing anything else. So it's hard to step away.
That is there was a book I read a while ago called The Courage to Be Disliked. And the whole point and it's a debate between a philosopher and a student. And the big point that the philosopher is trying to communicate to the student was, you have to find a North Star. You have to find, humans want to contribute to a thing, ultimately, whether it's a purpose, whether it is a cause, whatever it is, there has to be a North Star that you're walking toward. And I think you're speaking a lot to that when you respond in that way. And I'm glad I asked you the question about when was the time that you felt like you can just kind of duck out a bit and not be too worried about what the business would look like, or really cross all those T's and dot all those I's. However, I know you too well. You have such a strong sense of purpose, such a strong sense of foundation that was going to be really difficult. So I kind of did ask that almost for my own amusement. Anyway.
I did walk away from the business for about 3 or 4 years at one point with FYC.
Yeah.
I went and did interratio, was really focused on interratio, was only kind of running the books in the background for FYC. So I've done it. Ultimately, there wasn't like another business for me to kind of feel that contribution to. But in particular, the last couple of years, I mean, I've just really fallen in love with the group of people that we're working with. I mean that in the most sincere sense. You say you love someone, you're not going to leave them. It's an unconditional thing. Like, this is it. It is what it is. I'm never going to be resentful of it. I'm not going to hate it. There was moments in FYC history where I'm like, I'm resentful of this business. Why is this happening to me? And then you kind of like, you victimize against your own business when these difficult things happen. And then you go, okay, I love this business. I love this group of people. I'm here for them. And this is where I'm going to be. I'm not imagining myself with some other business, right? Like I have what is that called? Loyalty? No. Commitment in the relationship. So if you think about it from that perspective, you're like, cool, I'm committed to this. I no longer I shed all the resentment of all the bullshit of feeling sorry for yourself. And this is relatively recently. It's definitely been moments where this wasn't the case, but this is where I am. I'm going to be here. I'm happy with here. Let's go. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to back off on, because I'm enjoying this. And maybe I'll get in the hair of my employees every once in a while and might be too involved. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be building with this business, and this is where all my energy is going to go into. I mean, within reason, still have family and friends and still
correct.
Right. But this is where my energy wants to go. And I'm not a victim of that anymore. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs become victims of that. And they start to resent their business, and they start to go to these groups and be like, oh, I work so many hours. I'm like, lucky you get to work so many hours on your own business. You're not having to work for somebody else. Remember that you love this.
That is 1,000% right. Now, and hearing all that, do you feel at times entrepreneurs pay too much attention to the potential exit? Because you mentioned a few times just now, we'd had opportunities to exit, opportunity to exit. And those processes were a little depressing because, you're about to let go. But in your time talking with other entrepreneurs, do you think they focus too much on that eventual exit a bit too much? Have you found that the good entrepreneurs don't give a shit about that. I'm curious as to, in your kind of travels and journeys, what has been the kind of consensus on that?
I think the proper thing is to prep yourself for exit, but don't daydream about it. So you should always be attractive to an exit in the case that your stakeholders want it. So at the end of the day, most of us don't start businesses alone. We start businesses with partners, and our partners want return on investment, especially if you've got an investment or a third party buys in. So you have an obligation to prep your business for that exit in order to give them the return. That is your obligation. However, the daydreaming about the exit is the problem. So daydreaming about that day that you sell your business and you get to buy that car, you do that thing, whatever, man, or buy the home, whatever it is. Like, I'm not perfect. I daydream about it during our acquisition processes and how fun it would be. But ultimately kind of brought myself back down to discipline that says, nope, we got to stay focused on what's going to happen. What we know is going to happen. We keep our company running straight. I think entrepreneurs will fall in love with that life that they could have, and that makes them resentful of the life that they do have. So when you're only thinking about what it's going to be like out of this business, you forget to enjoy it while you're in it. So no, and especially in the last couple months, and like I just really want to think about how much I really enjoy this business. And hey, maybe it goes to my kids, maybe it does sell, I don't know. But I'm going to run it like it's going to be the most attractive business that it can be, and it's going to push off profits, and it's going to be an awesome business, and I'm going to go help my other partners do it, and that will eventually lead to an exit. It's kind of like it's a mindset that was really popular probably mid 2010s, where no one worried about monetizing their product. They stayed focused on building the best user experience and really solving the problems for their users, and they knew the money would come eventually. Like, you just want to get that following, you just want to get that reputation, you just want to get that product down first, and then you can worry about the exit later. So if you start dreaming about that finish line, you're not going to enjoy any of the race. And it should be, you want to surround yourself with people who enjoy being in this moment with you and not worrying about where they could be somewhere else. And that just kind of feels shitty. Like, you don't want to go out to lunch with somebody who's thinking about their dinner or who's thinking about who they're going to see next. That sucks. You want to be with someone who's happy to be where they are at this moment with you. And I want to be that for my partners, for my family when I'm at home. Not always there, but that's a trait I want to strive for.
Yeah, I think what's really important, and I want to kind of remind the audience, a through line to everything we've been talking about. Some of the things that we talk about, this is stuff that we want to strive for. We cannot guarantee when you're running a business, you're going to be perfectly on task, perfectly North Star, perfectly, there is so much that is under the current of everything we're discussing, where we're human beings at the end of the day. And I think it's really important to kind of emphasize that, especially in the age of AI, where we're making these massive assumptions about our bandwidth and what we're able to fully do, even though we're able to 300x some people that have really strong systems maybe with AI. The reality is, and I want to hear your feedback on this, AI and this idea of it doesn't replace the profound importance of human beings working together and solving problems together, because that's still one of the ultimate supercomputers is our human brains. And when we're collaborating together, in your view, and I kind of buried the AI part of this conversation because it's such a key word and so prevalent, but I still want to kind of just sprinkle it a little bit. What do you think are going to be the effects of AI? We did mention a bit earlier about the leveling of the game, if you will. What do you think its true effects will be for entrepreneurs going for the next 5-10 years, if you've even thought that far? I know maybe that's not the right question, but I'm just curious about your thoughts on that.
Of course. No, I think, again, we are moving more and more into our own little bubbles. Social media kind of started that, moving into our own echo chambers. AI is giving us this sycophant who tells us that we're going to be okay, and we're doing, because remember, everybody's chatting with these bots on a daily basis, whether, they're all having these little conversations that they would normally have in their head, but they're not having it with a bot, right? And they're working through these problems, and they're being told that they're going to be able to pull this thing off, and they're building this ambition, which is great. I love when people start to build ambition. And I'm excited for a lot of people to try things and fail and learn and earn scars. So I think for entrepreneurship, it is going to create this weird moment in time where a lot of people are going to become entrepreneurs. It's kind of similar to like the .com era when people could become entrepreneurs during COVID, right? There was the entrepreneurs, people who went from, desk jobs to, I can do a side hustle now. With AI, a lot of that's going to happen again. And we'll come back down to size. There'll be some reality checks that not everybody's cut out to do this, because even though you have AI on your side, this is still really hard. Getting users is hard. Going without a paycheck because it didn't work out for you is really hard. Going through the family tension is really hard. And admitting failure and learning how to get back up again is the hardest. So the fortitude isn't, collaborating as humans, those people will still be collaborating. We still collaborate. We work through some things now in our head and what used to be kind of in our head, or with a therapist or whatever, maybe now with AI. And we know more about our businesses, and it's great. And I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs, improve. I think there's a bump right now going on where there's a lot of freelance software developers, a lot of people who wanted to do this software development stuff, but it was too hard in the past, that are now able to do things, which is great. A lot of ambitious projects coming out, and people who've been kind of itching to do something are doing cool things, but it's going to arc back down, and entrepreneurship will become kind of where it was. Then there's this younger generation who are going to just, AI isn't novel. AI is what it is. It's social media isn't novel. It's what they grew up with. They don't know anything different. So this group are going to come up with a whole new way of approaching it. And it's not going to be this fear. It's not going to be this, they're not going to have ego attached to it. And they're going to be way stronger, in my opinion, than we are. They're going to be a strong generation of entrepreneurs who are empowered by AI because it's like a second muscle for them, and they're going to kill it. And it's going to be awesome watching them grow. I think, I have these moments of going, well, will they still look at us as wisdom and still come to us with questions? I think so. I still think they have emotions that you cannot work through with a bot, not even a well done, video bot. I still think there's connections people still want to have, and I still think innately as humans we look toward an older generation for wisdom and for people who've been through stuff, and that moment of having that conversation with that person is like 10x more important than the one conversation with a bot. So I think younger youth entrepreneurship is going to be freaking incredible. Those people are going to solve some amazing problems. They are going to blow our generation out of the water when it comes to solving problems. And I'm super excited for that because I'm going to be old and they're going to help me with all my healthcare. Hearing all my diseases when I'm older, and I'm excited for that. So I think we're in a little bit of an interesting moment of a lot of people becoming entrepreneurs because they feel more empowered because they finally got through this blocker. It'll die back down, and then we'll see a new generation of people who are this is just another muscle that they have, and they don't look at it as novel. They don't have these conversations. They talk about product. They talk about all these other things. They don't talk about AI because it's just AI is what they do. Why would we talk about anything else? That's just, it's kind of like us talking about a computer, so it's the internet. Right? It's just taken for granted. And I'm really interested and excited for that generation to come up. And I can't wait to invest into them and work with them.
So as we close out, 3 words of advice, just 3 words, no sentences, no phrases, literally 3 words of advice for an entrepreneur. First time listening to this episode, what are they?
Courage, in the true sense of the word.
Yeah.
Virtue, find balance in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And love. Yeah, you got to love this stuff, and you got to love the people around you. Like, truly love them unconditionally, want to help them, want to care for your family, want to care for the people around you, and do this for the right reasons. Don't do it for ego so that you can get a high five or some badge on some LinkedIn thing. Who gives a shit? Do it for the people around you, and people will follow you.
And that's it. That was Justin Fortier, managing partner, Fractal Group. Any last places where people can find you or people can find FYC Labs, Fractal Group? Spill it out.
Yeah, I mean, if you found this podcast, you probably are following us
right.
one with another. So Fractal Group, we are definitely interested in getting more folks to work with us and talk to us, if you like our philosophy and our values, then please reach out, Justin at fractalgroup.io. We want more people in our ecosystem that kind of think like this. I know a lot of you who are out there are looking for your tribe, and it's hard because entrepreneurship also attracts a lot of snakes and a lot of quick win or quick buck type mindset. If you relate to this group and to this approach, it'd be really cool to meet you and really create a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are all kind of building in the same direction and for the same purpose. Authentic purpose. It'd be really cool to find more folks like that. So please hang out with us. It doesn't matter what you're working on. We work with a lot of different projects, barber shops, and
that's right.
software development, services, media. We just really want to work with like-minded entrepreneurs.
Okay, my friend. Courage, virtue, love. 3 amazing words, an amazing guy. Thank you again for your time. Remember, folks, if you're listening to this episode, this was Fractal Focus. This is the beginning of a new season of episodes. We'll have some more exciting content coming up for you. Otherwise, stay hungry, stay innovative, stay entrepreneurial. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Fractal Focus. We hope you found valuable insights. If you enjoyed the conversation and want to stay updated on the latest trends and expert advice, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. Your support helps us continue bringing you the content that drives your business forward. Until next time, keep innovating and stay ahead of the curve.